From every corner of the world, people travel to a little city known as Lumios, a place where a tournament is hosted every night called the ZA Royale. From dusk till dawn, trainers do one thing and one thing only: fight. And that's exactly what I've come here to do. Everyone has a fire lit in them that inspires them to be the best version of themselves. Whether that be a taxi driver, an athlete, or chef, you could find it all on the battlefield. And whether you win or lose, if you were paying attention, you'll learn something that makes you better. Others may have a head start, and joining now may put me at a disadvantage, but I'll never forgive myself if I don't fight. Staying true to my desire, I'll only be using fighting types in this run. And with it being a hardcore Nuzlocke with rules slightly altered for the modern Legends formula, my team will have to play their hearts out. That's true especially at the start, because the fighting type is one of many that's unobtainable, at least on paper. You see, I chose Tepig as my starter, and Bronson Reed will have the fire of the fight lit within him in due time, so until we can pick up a true fighting type, he'll make do. Our first problem of many is the best taxi driver around, who leads with a Slowpoke with Water Gun. This super effective move will practically insta-gib us unless we're already far away, so running from the water bullet won't be much of an option. And that's not to mention the other two Mons in the back. I've seen others in this exact scenario before, and let me tell ya, it was not pretty. Already, I'm gonna have to finesse every avenue I can to pull this off, and that basically means getting TMs from doing a mini Professor Oak's challenge. In the Legends games, I don't mind catching and evolving other Pokemon to obtain items, so long as I don't use them in the progression battles. This means I'm catching 50 flying types, 50 normal types, 50 bug types, 50 poison types, 50 electric types, and a handful of fairy and psychic types to fill out my Wild Zone research along with Mabel's research. I then evolve whatever I can to their second and sometimes third forms respectively for the evolution research, and for the one last bump, I trade away 5 of the evolved Kadabras for other Kadabras to fill out the trait evolution research. If trades are allowed to evolve Kadabras in older games like Platinum, then they should be allowed here too. The primary reason I went out of my way to evolve these Kadabras was for the massive 6,000 point research bonus. But it turns out that Mabel doesn't offer that particular bonus yet. Looks like I'll be researching the old-fashioned way. Several excruciating hours later, I've finally done all of the necessary research. I took a risk and went to the ZA Royale to grind on the Pidgeotto trainer to evolve the last bit of Weedle. This is an optional fight, and every single time her bird went down, I ran away before engaging the Onix so that she would be ready to fight again. If I had defeated her Onix, then I wouldn't be able to battle her over and over again like I have. It was either this, or I emulated the game and used rare candies. This was all only so that Bronson could have access to both Protect and Double Team, which came all the way at rank 16. Because we still can't attack with anything stronger than Tackle or Ember, as nice as that would be, the promotion match versus Zach is nowhere near free. But it is underway. With Zach leading his Slowpoke, he'll predictably use Water Gun as soon as possible. That's why we immediately use Double Team. This move works just like Protect, giving us mere moments of invincibility. But it doesn't come out fast at all. To use it properly, I'll have to do some crazy predicting throughout the entire match. After we dodge their tackle with some sly movement, Bronson Reed and I go on the full offensive. However, Slowpoke is bulky, so we're still guaranteed to take more hits along the way. One of said hits is a Water Gun after I'm slightly too late in calling a Double Team. But with a lucky bird, Slowpoke goes down while we're still holding on to the Oran Berry. That berry eventually gets activated by the opposing Pidgey, and you can still see me figuring out the Double Team timing along the way. It's really not as good as Protect. Either way, Pidgey is taken out while we're in the green, and when Pikachu enters, I'm careful to save the Protect for his incoming Thunder Shock, his strongest move. From there, my first form powerhouse completely mows down Pikachu and wins us the seemingly impossible battle against Zack. I literally could not have done that without Double Team. If you have qualms with me using overleveled Pokemon to grind Mabel's research to get that TM, then I understand, but genuinely, I don't think there was another way. Hey, that might have taken me 6.5 hours, but it only takes 6.5 seconds to give the video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. It helps me out a whole lot, and I really appreciate it. Thank you. Zack may or may not have been the hardest fight in the game, but for now, Lumios has finally opened up, so I'm expanding the team as soon as possible. The Great Kali is our first additional comrade of many. Samoa Joe shortly after becomes my first real fighting type. Sheamus here has just as strong of a will to fight as we do, and Seth Rollins will be an irreplaceable fighter once he fully evolves. For the most part, this bunch will have to work as hard as Bronson to carry their weight, as some won't be gaining their fighting type until later. All except the big one. Big Bois, our best fighter by far at the moment, one who's ready to topple anyone standing in our way. And to make sure that I play as efficiently as possible, I take this opportunity to pick up every screw I can. Higher EXP yields from my new Canary plushes will almost make up for the first 6 hours. But if I were Yvonne, I'd be pretty furious too, cause our efforts really shine through in this battle. On paper, Big Wash should be terrible here, and while I forgot to replace his Oranberry with a Citrus, her Fairy still couldn't outplay our Protects. Vivillon may have moves like Draining Kiss and Gust, but they slip up and go on the defensive, which gave us the opportunity to use another TM from Mabel, Rock Slide. We finally found our footing and the fight's only just begun. And it's just too bad for Xavi that his level cap allows for 2 more threats. For the most part, Bronson Reed steamrolls his team with his new fists, aside from the Kadabra where Seth tags in and downs him immediately with a Shadow Claw. Reed tagged back on Furfuro to do something I'm pretty sure you can't air on television. Our legendary run doesn't end there, because Rintaro made the mistake of challenging us next. He tried to one-up Xavi's Poodle with a pack of monkeys, but one by one, each go down. I'd be lying if I said it was close. Even Tawny, who's pitted us up against our first Mega Evolution, couldn't do anything. With a little bit of help from last-minute candies, Reed maintains full control of the fight. We're really doing it. Not only have I entered the ZA Royale, but ever since Zack, I've been thriving. I've heard rumors about Krazy Artico wanting to challenge me for some rank skips, as apparently I've been doing too well down here. If that's the case, then I cannot afford to get overconfident. Instead, it's time to sign on some new fighters. Daniel Bryan is directly competing with Seth Rollins for screen time, so I'm eager to see what he can do. Brock Lesnar, on the other hand, isn't really that imposing. Oh my goodness! Tiffany Stratton is ready for the ring, but we'll have to wait for the Megastone first. CM Punk not only wreaks plenty of havoc, but also helps Samoa Joe finally evolve. I obtained Rio Louie, who was originally supposed to be CM Punk, through a trade, so I can't rename him. And Rey Mysterio may be small, but if you think about it, so are guns. From the bottom rope to the top, my next few opponents are in for it. But first, I want to point out that Rey Mysterio has been caught in the Rouge sector, and Sheamus was obtained at the Academy within the Rouge sector. But given the name specification, I'm treating it like its own location. Kinda like the Lumiose Museum. Well, it turns out the rumors were true, because a couple coffee-based evolutions later, we take on the rank skip promotion match. I was gonna comment on how even Vinny couldn't hold a flame to us, but really it's just a bad type matchup. Every single one of his mons is weak to fighting, so just like all of the promotion opponents before him, he lost. I enjoyed the fight myself, but Vinny wasn't fighting for anything in particular. Not for his restaurant, not for his stature, and not for his dreams. It was just a fight to test me. Every single time I've been challenged so far, both sides had something we've been fighting for. Vinny very well may have, or have had, dreams himself, but they didn't have anything to do with the fight. Is there something I'm not seeing, or could this just be what it's like when you don't have that fire lit under you anymore? Ah well, I'm still young. I got plenty of time to think about that later. For now, it's my job to use this young energy to beat up superpowered animals. This just kinda comes with the ZA Royale after a certain point, I guess. The first one isn't too bad. Samoa Joe does a great job countering Slowbro's side beams to build the Mega Meter for Daniel Bryan to take him out, even if Thunder Punch was our only good move. Seth Rollins still can't Mega Evolve, but that doesn't mean he isn't great at softening up the Mega Camera up for Tiffany Stratton. Now that's a duo I never thought I'd see. Unfortunately, I wasn't prepared for the eruptions getting guaranteed burns, so after Tiffy ends up on the receiving end, my strategy begins to fall apart with Rollins getting burned as well. Luckily for us, Rey Mysterio enters the match as an upset for the Camerupt and manages to take the win from there. Mysterio continues his reign against Mega Victory Bell and does such an amazing job that he fired up Bronson Reed, now fully evolved, to finish off the Rogue. I may have forgotten to equip the Megastone, but he didn't need it. Afterwards, Zygarde challenges us to an even simpler fight, one that I'll come to miss later on in my journey. And during the battle, I couldn't help but notice the old man L close behind. Was he still fighting his own fight? Or is this just the result of your own flame burning you up? I'm currently living the dream, but around every corner, I'm beginning to find myself asking, what's next? What happens after the ZA Royale? Ah, what the heck? I'm supposed to be young and invincible! You, old man! I need to express myself. Through beating you up! Sheamus, now just like everybody else, is fully evolved, and being both a fighting and grass type comes with a lot of perks, some of which can be seen in her phenomenal matchup against Hippowdon. While our moveset doesn't let us take them out in a timely manner, Sheamus still maintains the momentum to win. Might have taken some extra chip damage from Stealth Rocks here and there, but that's neither here nor there. Diggersby is a huge problem normally, as he has access to the 4 times effective Bounce, which is why I'm glad they held off on using it. Really weird decision, honestly. And last is Mega Excadrill, a Pokemon who I would normally have to play really carefully around, but with Sheamus in the ring, it's just another day of the week. Whew, alrighty, I feel a little bit better now. So, where's my next promotional match? Oh, that's convenient. Momentum seems to be a big thing here in the Royale, because just like Rey Mysterio, Sheamus keeps up his win streak against... wait.
Krazy.
Her type matchup continues to be positive, but the Ampharos was just a little bulkier than I anticipated, so by the time he and the Stunfisk finally went down, we don't really have enough health to take on the Mega Electros, even if we resist all their moves. That's why I tag in Bronson Reed to match that energy and Mega Evolve himself. We may not resist their stab, but try as they might, no one's overpowering our Tribal Thief. And unsurprisingly, the next batch of rogues aren't really anything to write home about. I had tons of fun, but the same can't be said for the Beedrill and Bayonet. Their styles were just too gimmicky. So much so that our standard hand-to-hand combat managed to simply overpower them. Our days of Kaizo-like planning are behind us. And way in front of us. But the important thing is they're not with us right now. Really our biggest problem is the rogue Mega Halucha, stealing Mysterio's whole flow. Word on Vernal Avenue is he goes by Eddie Guerrero, and forget our weakness to flying, I've got several mons weak to both flying and fighting. Of all of the rogue megas so far, Eddie Guerrero is the biggest challenge yet, so who better to lead than Rey Mysterio? Like many other rogues, Eddie focuses most of his attacks on me, which means most of the suboptimal air slashes straight up miss Rey. He takes every opportunity he can to use his aerial ace, wing attack, and Zen headbutts. The damage is racking up pretty nicely, but we need a Mega Evolution to seal the deal. And Daniel Bryan is once again my answer. Not only does she have the jump on Seth Rollins with the Megastone availability, but apparently Bryan also gets Recover. Reliable healing is really hard to come by. Guerrero appears to be going for an early finisher, but Bryan puts a stop to it immediately. So far the match is fully in our control. We use Recover when he enters phase 2, but in assuming he wouldn't go for the finisher again so quickly, I switched back to Rey to preserve the Mega Energy. But the timing just couldn't have been worse. Eddie gets ready to use his finisher again, and without a Mega, Rey Mysterio won't be able to stop him in time. Daniel Bryan frantically gets back in the ring, but it's too late. I need to make a split-second decision. Who could tag in with good enough timing to dodge, but live the hit anyways? From the top rope, Eddie Guerrero lands the high-flying frog splash. And Brock Lesnar stays up! That thing was at full power too. Rey Mysterio gets back in there to charge up the Mega, getting hit by more air slashes this time around, but it still isn't enough. Daniel Bryan switches back in and KOs Eddie with Zen Headbutt. Another insane title match is behind us, and it really feels like nothing can stand in our way. After a quick night of the ZA Royale, our monstrous run continues up through the next promotional match. And this is where CM Punk finally gets their debut in the opening fight against Gwen, and easily triumphs over her first 2 Pokemon. However, by the time Gorgeist gets taken out, we're at half, and the Citrus Berry hasn't activated yet. I don't want CM Punk taking Chandelure's flamethrowers from there, so Samoa Joe is the mon to wrap it up. Oddly, Chandelure seems to always save their strongest move for last anyways, so we win in no time. You know, I really like the vibe with Ivor. His goal to make the people of Lumiose capable of boxing with Pokemon themselves is an interesting goal, but otherwise I definitely align with his fighting spirit. This tag team 4v4 begins with Bronson Reed versus Heracross, and we use Flame Wheel to close the distance, yet they manage to close it first and do some damage. The 2 fighting types trade some blows, but Reed comes out on top. Daniel Bryan gets a mirror match with Ivor's Medicham, and while they make use of Protect, our use of Recover guarantees them to never break through us. Sheamus goes on to prove her Brawn versus Machamp, and even with them bulking up, Sheamus remains to be stronger. And last but not least, Ivor sends out his ace in the hole, the no retreating Mega Phalanx. This mon is a problem, even for my Psychic types, but Rey Mysterio has a shiny new Megastone to amplify his power. Even amidst the opposing Mega's Omni Boost, the giant killer breaks through it all, promoting us to rank D. We've already begun to speed up the journey a little bit, and from here, the journey begins to flow even more smoothly. And I'm not just saying that because some of my enemies self-destruct. Rather, none of our opponents pose large challenges for a while, physically or idealistically. Philippe, for one, is full-on countered by Bronson Reed. The Rogue Mega Ampharos, and especially the Rogue Mega Barbaracle, have plenty of weaknesses to take advantage of, so those fights ended quickly. This was made even easier with Sheamus being able to Mega Evolve, as I allow the online Megastones in my runs. Because they should be available. Mega Mawile, shockingly, isn't that different. Bronson Reed's fire typing puts her on the back foot, and with Rio Louie's help withstanding the bullet hell, we easily end the match in no time. Corbo and I each try to rank up, but one by one, his Pokemon fall like all the others. The worst of the bunch is Gyarados with Bounce, but he's still weak to a Thunder Punch, and my Pokemon are very capable of punching Thunderly. Bronson Reed is our go-to after that, and the rest is history. And really close! With the many upsets we've been causing on our rank climb, an aristocrat by the name of
Jacinthe
has invited Tanya and I to fight in her tournament. I am so unbelievably down, but the boss says otherwise. At least I get to fight more rogues, I guess. But both the Rogue Mega Frostlass and the Rogue Mega Venusaur were taken care of by Reed practically for free, leaving us with the Mega Altaria to be the only issue. Well, actually, on the way to Venusaur, I ran through a group of Fletchling, and one was shiny. That was the real bigger issue. Regarding the Altaria, Riolu could take advantage of the Mega Fairy typing and sniper from a distance with a Flash Cannon. That, along with the Bullet Punch and Extreme Speed comboing rather nicely, meant that this fighting type counter ended up just getting bullied. Kinda like how the shiny Fletchling are bullying me. And with that, it's time to take a breather, but more so in the pacing sense rather than the difficulty sense. With a team full of dragons, Laban is the first trainer in a long line of fights where the trainers really lock in. But too bad for her, we have something of a level advantage. So Riolu handles Noivern, Sheamus conquers Tyrantrum, CM Punk withstands the Garchomp, and it got close. And finally for the Dragalge, guess who finally got a Mega Stone? The problem is, I got a little overzealous with the leveling, and Riolu, my only Steel type, managed to just barely break past the level cap. Can't use him for the upcoming fight against Jasal now, which is bad. And not only do I have to worry about sharing the same fate as Laban if I lose this easily losable matchup, but with this climactic tournament within the ZA Royale, I'm reminded of how much progress I've made. I'm on my way to rank B, and there isn't much more beyond that. Zygarde and L crashed the tournament in an admittedly funny sequence, but it only serves to remind me of what might come of me after I reach rank A. After I hypothetically become the strongest trainer in Lumiose, am I just gonna become a husk of my former self? I'm running out of time to figure that out, but I'm still not given any time to think about it. Jasal is challenging me to a battle, and I'm gonna have to play my heart out. First up is Sheamus vs Carbink. I recently picked up the Ironhead TM, which is our saving grace here, but it still isn't enough to one-shot our quad-weak opponent. I would say it was close, but Sheamus basically had to cycle her moves until Ironhead was available again. She took too much damage by the time Carbink went down, but that's okay because as long as things go to plan, we won't need her again. The hardest part about Mawile was putting the fight into words before she got taken out. But between Moonblast and Psychic, Gardevoir poses a much larger threat, one that only Seth Rollins can handle. They do get the Calm Mind set up before he tags in, but between his carefully crafted attacks and a Protect blocking their one Moonblast, Rollin ends it very quickly. Aurorus was the only real positive matchup for my fighting types, and still managed to get some big damage on Brock Lesnar. If I get forced to pivot mid-fight, then it's not great that I'm running low on healthy fighters. Because Mega Clefable not only comes with a Mega Boosted Moonblast, but she also has the Stab super effective Air Slash for coverage, and Protect for longevity. Even Riolu would have struggled with Mystical Fire as well. So now I have no other choice but to debut my earliest capture all the way from Wild Zone to the Great Kali. We take the initiative and use the first move in Stone Edge. As predicted, the Clefable blocks it, but she's already rattled as we could tell by their imperfect Protect. The Great Kali keeps the pressure going with Rock Blast, and it was all just too much for Mega Clefable, up through the final hit. We stumbled a little leading up to it, but we've made it to rank B. Only one last rank to reach. My journey beyond its conclusion is still unclear to me, but I can find solace in the fact that every step along the way, I've been fighting for this opportunity to the best of my ability. Whatever happens beyond this point, the team and I will at least be able to own it. To continue to make sure that I do everything right, I conduct my final night of the ZA Royale before progressing anywhere else. These trainers are usually a little behind me level-wise, so by grinding them out before the rogue matches or promotional shenanigans, I'll be using my time the most effectively. And it's important that I do, because the final batch of these base game rogues are some of the most difficult. Even Mega Tyranitar, who's 4 times weak to fighting, is particularly tough. Fighting! That's my whole thing! The thing is that he's very bulky, and able to consistently deal damage while withstanding most attacks. Brock Lesnar does a phenomenal job throughout Phase 1, where we can finesse moves like Stone Edge by going in circles. But by the time Phase 2 begins, Brock has taken a little too much damage for me to feel comfortable. Even Stone Edge poses some threat now, until I realize I could just dodge its spray by pivoting from side to side. From here, I really wanted Tiffany Stratton to take the stage, but the Sand Armor is just too much for drawn out fights with physical attackers, which are most fighting types. With all of the sand tombs scattered around, I struggle to find my footing until a certain Pokemon comes to save the day. One that can take hits and dish them back just like Tyranitar. And that's none other than CM Punk. With an amazing opening from Big Bois, Mega Starmie's first phase is obliterated in no time, making way for CM Punk to continue his run. Starmie may have run around a lot, but with Mega Bulk Up, Punk only needs to land his hits a couple of times before we win. Mega Dragonite has a handful of exploitable weaknesses. I'll be taking particular advantage over their weaknesses to moves like Rock Slide and Ice Punch. Or rather, I would if they didn't put me on the back foot so soon. Unlike most other rogues, Dragonite's answer isn't simply a 2-mon solution. Brock Lesnar has the ability to do damage, but with air slashes flying about, it gets precarious. Bronson Reed actually has a handful of rock attacks he can use, and while he switches in on his own air slash, he still manages to land some decent hits. When Dragonite begins using Hurricane, I can only imagine that it does both flying and electric damage. I think. So I leave it to Riolu to tank the damage and dodge whatever he can. As the Air Typhoons aim for me specifically, dodging actually isn't too hard. But Dragonite has a handful of special attacks at his disposal. So in between storms, if I go for ranged moves like Rock Slide or Dragon Pulse, my Pokemon would very likely enter the attack radius of moves like Fire Blast. Even with his resistances, Riolu isn't safe. Instead, Seth Rollins takes it upon himself to chip away at the Dragonite, bringing them to Phase 2. The biblically accurate Mega is way more aggressive in this state, but that's exactly what we wanted. Dragonite is left wide open after using Hurricane in an attempt to charge his Hyper Beam, a move capable of one-shotting anyone. But too bad for the Rogue Boss. It's Tiffy time! I was saving her for this charge up, because if you don't have a Mega ready, it's incredibly hard to interrupt the Hyper Beam. Now, between Tiffy's Play Rough, Ice Punch, and Stab Headbutts, we break the charge every time. They still get some lesser Hyper Beams off afterwards, but this is another great time to tag in Riolu to tank him. When Dragonite comes back, they attempt to charge up Hyper Beam again, but in this scenario, my high-flying Gymnast always comes out on top. Compared to the grind of getting through Jasant's tournament, this final section before the Rank A promotional match feels like it takes no time at all. But at least all the battles are fresh and new, like this one against Emma. She's testing me to see if I'm strong enough to handle the information she's about to give me on the other Rank B trainer. And honestly, with Mega Malamar as her ace, I'm questioning if she's strong enough. But that's none of my business. Grizel, on the other hand, does pose a sizable threat, with all of her Pokemon being powerhouses in their own right. But for some reason, they skimp out on some crucial coverage moves, which makes my job way easier. Talonflame, for example, is one who really suffers from this. Without any flying type attacks, Bronson Reed is completely free to take her out. We then psych out her camera up to finesse an Earthquake dodge, and get CM Punk out there to punch her cow over and over again. Aerodactyl is yet another flying mon without flying coverage, so oddly Seamus is my best answer here. Couple Iron Heads later, and they're down too. Metagross was a little tougher to plan for as I don't have access to Dark Pulse yet, and their Psycho Cut does just a little more to Riolu than I anticipated. It got a little close, but you can always rely on Rey Mysterio to finish the job. And finally, Grizel Mega Evolves her Pyroar, but I've been grinding some quests, and Seth Rollins' new Assault Vest gives him incomparable special defense, so the Mega Evolution doesn't last for long. Well, after tons of skipped exposition, we're finally here. The final promotional match of my ZA career. I either win and enter Rank A, or lose and start again from square one. It's taken a lot to get to this point, and it feels so crazy that it's finally happening. And Grisham won't be easy either. Including his Mega Evolution, he's functionally got 3 pseudo-legends on his side. The battle will be tight, but will be tighter. Wait, that's not what Pangoro is Grisham's lead, and Rey Mysterio is my best counter. We both play a little footsie on who will protect first, and Rey makes great work of the scenario and makes him stumble and takes Pangoro out with Flying Press. Malamar isn't anything I haven't dealt with before, so even though Big Bois eats a Psyshock on a switch, a quick lunge is still enough for us to one-shot him. Again, Pyroar isn't anything new either, and Seth Rollins counters her completely. Unfortunately, Sacred Sword isn't enough to knock her out on its own, so we take a little more damage in the process. But it's still the same song and dance in the end. Oh, Salamence is out next? I guess that makes sense, I just wasn't ready for that yet. Let me get my Salamence counter ready and... The Great Kali enters the fight and Mega Evolves to parry the Earthquake. Once she's ready, a single Stone Edge hits Salamence like a truck and stops him before he can launch a Draco Meteor. Daniel Bryan enters now in preparation for the Tyranitar, but wait, her moveset wasn't changed for this fight! I can't afford to lose any more Psychic types, so CM Punk attempts to clutch this up. And she doesn't have Brick Break either? We clash with 2 Ice Punches, and both Pokemon get frozen. There's no way this has ever happened before. Rey Mysterio returns to easily finish off the Tyranitar before they thaw, leaving us with only Mega Charizard X to deal with. But the Great Khali was built for this. A Rock Throw tricks them into protecting early, and while Stone Edge doesn't quite kill, we can tank whatever they throw at us before comfortably landing Rock Slide to win our promotional match and finally reach the final rank. Man, that was probably the worst performance of my career. I can't even say that it was only one death. It was one whole death. Seth Rollins was really stepping up and had an incredibly wide variety of attacks. I only hesitated for a second and it cost her everything. And now, what's left for me? Do I just sit here at the top, forever to hold on to these regrets? I should be celebrating, but how could I without the full family of fighters that brought me all the way to the end of the ZA Royale? I guess I'll just sleep on it for now and figure it out tomorrow. Huh? What? What's going on here? Oh man, I should have learned how to read. It looks like my fight isn't over yet. Not only is Lumiose in danger, I live there by the way, but Tanya also made it to rank A. We need to find out who's worthy of fighting with Floette, and battling is the only way. Tani's been fighting her own fight and been compared to me the entire time, and now she wants to prove she's just as strong as me. Either way, I would never say no to a fight, and this could be just the thing I need. Or I'm addicted, who's to say? The battle to find out which of us is officially the strongest trainer in the ZA Royale is underway, and Tawny has less than an ideal start. I was prepared with Samoa Joe to break her screens, but the first one she sets is Light Screen, so there's no Reflect stopping Crunch from getting the Oko. Samoa Joe is 4 times weak to Fairy, however, so with Meganium coming out, presumably readying Dazzling Gleam, I switched to Bronson Reed while dodging the Leech Seed. This Meganium has prepared an expanded moveset, and now the super effective Earth Power comes our way. Thanks to Bronson Reed's showboating, we aren't able to protect in time and take some big damage from the attack. He at least dodges Dazzling Gleam with a well-timed T-Crash, reminiscent of his double teaming days, but it doesn't do as much as I'd like, as Flame Wheel doesn't pick up the kill. And by this time, the now unblockable Earth Power is charged up. But Brick Break hits just in time to finish her off. Gudra's next and is typically a hard Pokemon to break through, but CM Punk is harder. Parting Shot weakens their attacks, so we're safe to unleash our entire arsenal on the Seismic Slug. Avalugg is here and gone in a matter of seconds thanks to our special attacking Rio Louie, and Manectric is just too frail to be any different against the Beast Incarnate. Last is Tawny's Water Dragon starter, and I have almost no super effective attacks to land on this thing. So if I'm gonna have a drawn out battle with it, I'd rather have no one else on the field but Sheamus. The two behemoths trade blow after blow, but before long, Feraligatr gains the advantage. Crunch lowers our defenses, and Breaking Swipe even lowers our attack through Spiky Shield. We recover somewhat with Giga Drain, but it's not enough. With half of our stats lowered, and our health even lower, Sheamus bets it all on his final Bullet Seed. And we've done it! Feraligatr falls, and we've cemented our place as the strongest trainer currently in Lumiose. We've still got it. My team of fighters still got that fight in them. And while my dream to become the strongest has seemingly been achieved, there's still more to do. Lumiose is still in danger, and Tawny takes it upon herself to head to the tower with Floette. Honestly, I prefer to be down here anyways. It's time we put this power to good use. So the wild megas that are rampaging the streets are like mini rogues, and fighting 2 at once is no joke. If you have the right mons, you could cheese them with moves like Perish Song, but we have no such mons. Instead, I'll be leading with, wait, does Mega Heracross have a vent in its stomach? That's disgusting! Rey Mysterio's job is to focus their quad-effective flying attacks into Heracross, but we don't have the Mega ready right away and get sniped by Gengar's Icy Wind. Fortunately, we timed it detect rather nicely, while Lita and Naveen took some of the pressure off of us, letting me sort of safely Mega Evolve Rey and finish off the Body Horror Bug. With the Assault Vest, Samoa Joe can clutch up and knock out Gengar the very same. Now the next batch has not only a Garchomp, but a Pidgeot too. This round is way more precarious, not only because of the type coverage, but because both the Pidgeot and the Kangaskhan would not leave me alone. Fortunately, the bird isn't that bulky, so the Great Khali was able to do most of the work, leaving Brock Lesnar to deal with most of the Kangaskhan's health thanks to the Shell Bell keeping alive. By the time Rio Louie finishes her off, Ivor and Gwen have already handled the Garchomp. That was pretty lucky. Then the fight against Blastoise and Steelix turned out to be a little bit of a break. Even with both of them focusing Sheamus down, the tank just didn't care. Leech Seed and Giga Drain did wonders for our longevity. Let's go, Sheamus! The Great Khali had an equally easy time at first against Salamence and Aggron. Our bulk up boost made most moves like Stone Edge very effective, until Salamence started spamming the special attacking Air Slash. Aggron quickly picked up on that damage and headed our way to finish us off with Iron Head. Which landed, but Kali managed to live it. CM Punk then tagged in to take out Salamence, while Riolui was the one who eliminated Aggron. But even with such a good team, I do not have a good answer for Mega Gardevoir and Gallade, as it stands. Psychic, Fairy, and Fighting is just the perfect combination of types to deal with me. I'm pretty much at the mercy of whoever the AI decides to focus down, but I've had a manageable track record so far. I've also got Daniel Bryan, my only Pokemon with reliable recovery in Recover. We Mega Evolve immediately and ready a Recover to counteract any damage we take. Brock Lesnar tags in with his moveset tailor-made for fighting the Gardevoir, along with the Shell Bell for some mode of recovery. Between Heavy Slam and Detect, we can manage to dodge multiple attacks. We only have to tank a single Psychic before we may not have managed to do much damage, but Riolui is still a good matchup in spite of Gallade still being on the field. While he's distracted, he's not distracted. He's not distracted! Ray pivots in so Rioli can dodge Psycho Cut, and Gardevoir may use Psychic, but And whether you win or lose, if you were paying attention, you'll learn something that makes you better. Riolui returns on a Moonblast, but manages to tank it with the Assault Vest. Shadow Claw and Flash Cannon begin to rack up massive damage on the Gardevoir, but Gallade approaches us to cut us short. We use Extreme Speed to dodge their incoming Psycho Cut, and they still manage to land it, but Riolui holds on. I switch to Seamus just in time as Corbo finally does something and knocks out Gardevoir, and with only Gallade remaining, Seamus maintains with Giga Drain to barely take them out in time. I cannot believe how poorly that went. I really thought Daniel Bryan would take those hits a little better. And both Brock Lesnar and Rey Mysterio going down so easily is unheard of. The three of them each did things that no one else can do, and their absence will be impossible to ignore for the rest of the run. I need to make sure to learn from this loss, or else it truly would have been for nothing. Grisham and Grisel really come in clutch this time. They managed to distract both the Metagross and Aerodactyl, the two mons I was worrying about. This gives Samoa Joe the time to bully Mega Alakazam, who only sets screens and uses psychic attacks. I was really worried she'd have Focus Blast, but nope. By the time the surprisingly tanky Mon goes down, the other two are most of the way there. Without the mini rogues noticing me, this last battle ends surprisingly easily. I've completed the ZA Royale and made it all the way to rank A. Even the other trainer who made it to rank A was defeated, albeit barely without a death. I thought that was it. There was no real goal left for me to aspire to. But not 30 minutes later, a couple of wild Pokemon did what only one other trainer was able to do. 3 times over. There's still so much room left for growth, and the biggest growth in history happens to be my next opponent. I planned on having a slightly different team on hand for this fight, and having 2 Mons on hand that need to Mega Evolve to be able to be used raises my chances of getting soft-locked. But this is our fight, and we're doing it our way. Wait, L's up here too? How old is this guy? Wait, he collected all the Zygarde cells? This whole time he's been fighting in his own way. And now Zygarde is here at full power to lend us support. This just might be doable. Rey Mysterio sacrificing himself in place of Riolui was a gift, one that my bipedal dog does not take lightly. With the Shell Bell in hand, he's the first to charge into the fight against Hyper Rogue Ange Floette. As soon as the battle starts, my little legend already gets hit a few times, but immediately heals it off thanks to the Shell Bell recovery. It ends up working surprisingly well in this fight. From there, Phase 1 remains to be incredibly passive, and our combination of Aura Sphere, Flash Cannon, and Dark Pulse whittle away at Ange Floette's flowers until there's nothing left. Zygarde uses 1000 Waves, and we enter Phase 2. This one is considerably tougher. Whenever Riolui uses his special attacks, he stays in a single spot for a considerable amount of time. Normally this isn't long enough for tons of major punishments, but the Blue Flower's Toxic Mist snipes him and does plenty of chip damage. Riolui is set all the way to the red, and the window to heal it back is considerably smaller now. I end up switching to Bronson Reed a couple times to get my Steely Fighter out of the bind, and with very careful placement, I find the openings I need for him to begin siphoning all of his health back. We eventually find a groove, and Phase 2 quickly ends with Zygarde using Land's Wrath. Then, Phase 3 oddly ends up being easier. That Toxic Mist that troubled me so much before is stronger, but only hits the immediate area around the flower. We're safer than ever before to use all of the Aura Spheres and Flash Cannons we can, meaning the Hyper Rogue flowers are soon dealt with for good. Zygarde uses Core Enforcer, Ange Floette gets its second wind, I Mega Evolve Zygarde to use Nihil Light, probably the coolest named attack ever, and the day is saved. But even after all that, I can't help but feel like there's more for me. There's more than the ZA Royale to overcome, and I learned that the hard way from the mini Rogue Mega evolutions. We were able to eventually overcome that horrible, nasty Gardevoir duo, but that could have been a fluke. It sure felt like one at the end. And even after all that, we still lost AZ. After fighting for 3,000 years, his body just gave out. He gave me a home to come back to in between the promotional matches, and now that he's gone and his fight is concluded, I need to find some way to pay it forward. One of the perks of reaching rank A of the ZA Royale is that we get a wish. I suppose that if my journey continues, then so should everyone else's in the ZA Royale. That seems fitting. We even have another boss fight with Tawny to build up to. But more importantly for now, the place where Ange Floette stood has now become a wild zone, and this is the perfect place for me to hunt a certain fighting type that I neglected to get earlier on. Should I be able to get the alpha variant here, then it'll save me some crucial grinding time afterwards. And what do you know? It spawned when the sun began to set. Already off to a bad start, and it didn't help that the quick ball didn't work. We managed to section it off from the nearby Barbaracle, but for some reason, partway through my hunt, it takes a lap. This aggro's the other alpha for now, and I have to juggle dealing with two of them at once. Miraculously, I'm able to catch it with only one arrow of probability, leaving me free to deal with the flinks. They're knocked out, giving me 4 arrows, and it breaks free. What are the odds? Begrudgingly, I head to Wild Zone 16 to find a lower leveled alternative. And let me be the first to introduce you to the Shield. With my Royale funds, I've bought enough EV medicine to max them out and begin participating in the Infinite ZA Royale to level them up. And even in the first night, my team gets a lot of experience points. This is great, except for one small caveat. The level cap for this is 72. In order to get to Tawny, I'll have to fill out 15 battle tickets, and by then, I'll be way over leveled. It'd be impossible not to be. Even the other trainers leading up to her circle that level cap of 72. So while it's a continuous main mission, I think the Infinite ZA Royale lies just outside the reins of a post-game Nuzlocke. Ah well, I just fought Tawny anyways. Getting revenge on Zach for making me waste all that time felt pretty nice though. With our second victory freshly earned, I get a call from Lita to head back to Hotel Z. Thank goodness, get me out of this grind. Oh, Elle says that 2 legendary Pokémon are on their way to Lumiose, and it's up to me to take care of them. Yeah, sure, why not? Actually, hey, since I'm here, thank you so much for collecting those Zygarde cells. I'm pretty sure I genuinely would have been killed otherwise. You know what? If I'm gonna be dealing with legendaries, it only makes sense that I get one of my own. Deep within Lysander Labs laid a Pokemon that Team Flare meant to experiment on, just like Xerneas and Yveltal. This was because they could Mega Evolve based on energy from the 2 respectively. And because one of those forms gains the fighting type, I really wanted on the team. I could have grinded for the Master Ball from Mabel's research, and I did a little, but I already grinded for that a month ago, so I'm good. Big Bois is our heavy damage dealer. I can't afford a drawn out fight with this thing, so I'm gonna knock it out and bet everything on the last ball. The freshly awoken legend only goes for Aura Sphere at first, but we're still prepared with 2 renditions of Protect. Between Lunge and Mega Horn, we are tearing away at their health. And when psychic attacks start flying, I know it's time to get Samoa Joe out there. Along the way, I attempt to throw a Pokeball, but no luck. Looks like I have to knock them out after all. After one last crunch does a trick, I send the Ultra Ball flying. I didn't think that would work. A new monster has been added to the team, and it's the one and only Undertaker. Both Xerneas and Yveltal come with prerequisites to their battles, including alpha battles and rogue matches respectively. Nothing too crazy, especially with the Undertaker's help. The only weird thing is that I'm required to catch the legendaries. So instead of throwing Pokeballs endlessly, I'm gonna try my Undertaker strat. With them, I had to catch them within the first attempt to fit within the rules of the Nuzlocke, I think. But with these 2, I'm just gonna knock them out as soon as possible. If the catch fails, then I could just retry. But these life and death inspired mons have pretty nasty coverage for fighting types, and they've got a health boost that the Undertaker did not get. With all this in mind, it probably looks really weird that I'm leading with Samoa Joe, a mon 4 times weak to Moonblast. Well, he's got the Roselli Berry to weaken the potential Moonblast to make sure we could use Taunt. This prevents Xerneas from setting up Geomancy and becoming even more monstrous than it already is. Because the one that gives didn't go for Moonblast, Joe gets a gunk shot in before I pivot to Riolu. He builds nice damage along with the Mega Meter, which powers up the Undertaker, who bodies Xerneas for the rest of the fight. After knocking them out, we catch the beast first try. Thank goodness. But Yveltal is way worse. Not only is the super effective Hurricane and Psychic at its disposal, but the restorative Oblivion Wing is as well. There isn't a whole lot I can do about that, except stay ready and react goodly. And this time I'm leading with CM Punk. She's bulky, sure, but first I attempt to test some Pokeball interruptions. Both times it does cancel out Dark Pulse, but both times it just goes for Dark Pulse again. Interesting. This interaction is shortly followed by the first Oblivion Wing usage. It does a lot, but we can heal some of it back with the Shell Bell. It looks like this thing isn't super aggro yet, so I decide to just fully send our attacks. The repeated use of Psychic and Dark Pulse make me feel pretty safe, but Yveltal was just pulling me closer to use another Oblivion Wing that just barely takes us out with a slightly mistimed Detect. Oh no! And this thing is still practically full, with Oblivion Wings keeping them there. Things went so bad so quickly. Samoa Joe's my only Psychic Immune Mon, but they go for Oblivion Wing again? The Copa Berry keeps it from doing too much, but I switch to the Undertaker for safekeeping. On another one? Do these things have no cooldown? Fortunately, we parried it by Mega Evolving, and our damage is pretty substantial. I did get a little ahead of myself though, because I should have utilized Light Screen way earlier. The Undertaker barely survives a follow-up Oblivion Wing, and finally sets the screen for can't Mega Kali. Sets the screen for the vested Rio Louie. Even moves like Oblivion Wing won't be doing much now. But two back-to-back? Wait. Oh, freeze? Rio Louie, you madman. Not only does the Ice Punch freeze save us from any more casualties, but it also guarantees the capture. Lumiose is saved for a third time this week, and oh man, my box is hurting. The ZA Royale was hardly even the beginning of this challenge. And after all of this legendary stuff, I think it's time we finally get some answers from L. Everything always ends up linking back to him, and I need some closure. Especially with CM Punk's death fresh in my memory. I find L just outside of Hotel Z, and it turns out this old man still got some fight in him. This is actually perfect for me, because I wouldn't want his answers any other way. Pokemon Trainer L stares me down with a weight that I've never felt before, and follows through by sending out a Pyroar several cuts above the rest. The shield has a great matchup at their toe tips, but gets burned with the very first flamethrower used. Even if that wasn't the case, it still looks like our max attack would have only tickled the harem-having feline. After they use a Solar Beam, I call it quits and bring out the Great Kali early. If we got burned again, then that'd be a big blow to momentum, but we use our Stone Edge and take the first knockout. Next up is Florges with a plethora of super effective hits, so Kali takes a break and plays for Rio Louie. This fighter has suddenly become one of the team's main powerhouses, and shows it by making quick work of the opposing bouquet. Sableye somehow withstands a Heat Crash from Bronson Reed, and for a second it makes me think that he's using a lag switch. But if they are, it's to no one's advantage. The Great Kali returns while narrowly avoiding Noivern's Hurricane to get yet another clean knockout with Stone Edge. And Garbodor, who already can't do much against Bois, is neutered even further with an attack drop from Lunge. Before long, L is brought to his final Mon. The very same Gyarados forced to fight for Pokemon Extinction is now fighting alongside L for fun. And that might make it scarier than it's ever been. Our only shot at success here lies with Seamus, who can't Mega Evolve while Kali is still in their fighting form. We got Spiky Shield to help out, but it turns out it doesn't fully work against plus moves. We end up taking the full force of multiple attacks, while our super effective moves aren't quite closing the gap. The battle cuts close with Seamus entering the red, so Big Bois takes her place, eats a nasty waterfall, and breaks the Gyarados to finish the fight, winning us the battle against Lumiose's first super boss. I really thought L was some decrepit old man going on autopilot, but he's still really motivated. Even after things went so wrong for and with him, he's able to keep going and keep fighting for a more beautiful world. In a way, he succeeded with his help for Zygarde, who's apparently beckoning me to the center of the city for an unknown reason. Man, if only there was a clue as to what they want. Now, I like a good fight, but I'm no fool. The upcoming rogue fight against Zygarde has 3 phases, and they are in no way easy. Well, the first phase is a little easy, but this fight is a marathon that lasts 3 rounds, and with a level cap of 84, there aren't many avenues for my team to withstand the whole fight. There is one, however, and that's based solely on a rumor. A rumor that says there's a back alley vendor selling some insanely good TMs, but he'll only show up in towns with a great donut scene. And even then he's still not cheap. Step 1 isn't too difficult to complete, because Team MZ is coincidentally welcoming a new member, who just so happens to be a donut whiz. The only problem now is that Tawny used up all of our butter, so now I'm the errand boy. And man, are you kidding me? I have to battle? The butter is also an interest to two characters that have never interacted before, so that means we're gonna have to have a double battle. This is the first of many that we're gonna be dealing with, and I assume as a balance under the chaos found in Legends ZA, Game Freak left these guys around level 70. It's still chaotic, even while being at level 83, but we manage with the classic strat of aiming down one side first, then leaving the other to fend for themselves. Thing is, I can't control Tawny, so Tarragon eventually gets a fresh new Mon out there. And at one point with Tawny's Pokemon freshly downed, Samoa Joe gets doubled up on. He holds on like a champ, letting me get the Undertaker out there to finish Joe's plate. Wait, is that a phrase? We bring the coveted Lumiosian butter back to Ansha, and I don't mean to blow my own horn, but this donut looks like it smacks harder than Anthony Joshua. But we're not done yet. Ansha's Hoopa wants to eat the donut near the Sizen Canal, and they just go in the hyperspace portal? I mean, Ansha's got a legendary with her. I'm sure she's fine, but you know what? Zygarde probably has all the time in the world. I could make time. So this is our first time in Hyperspace Lumiose. A sick and evil version of Lumiose where everything is gray, and there's new Pokemon, and free healthcare. Okay, well, it's actually pretty horrific, because along the way finding Ansha, we get jumped by a pack of new Pokemon. And it's Mankey? I would kill the rest of Team MZ for a Mankey, but alas, it can't be done. I'm not gonna lie though, these things were actually jumping me. Even with 9 levels of Donut Boost, all 5 of these little gremlins were doing some serious damage. I just wanted to use enough moves to Mega Evolve the Undertaker, but I hardly had the opportunity. I began to panic, and honestly from here, this entire interaction becomes a blur, and I'm not joking. But the point is, we do get out of there in one piece, and I really am not sure how. Well, dude, that can't be good. Oh, a title card? No! With the revelation of Hyperspace Lumiose's existence, Ansha puts us on this little quest in hopes of finding another legendary Pokemon for her mom. Some people's greed sickens me. But we'll get back to this later, because now I could properly build for Zygarde. Would you look at that? The good stuff's here. I'm broke? Well, fortunately, I've gotten pretty good at farming Mega Crystals for the EXP candies. So before long, I return to the most conspicuous alleyway in the region and pick up the TM for Drain Punch and Dual Chop. Dual Chop is great coverage, but the big one is Drain Punch. Consistent recovery on pretty much everyone is a game changer. Well, we're here. This is the Pokemon boss that's most compared to a Dark Souls boss, and this is the first time that there's so little exaggeration. Zygarde 10% form is a great warm-up for Seamus, the fighter who I planned on primarily using in this fight. At this point, the only moves we have to deal with are 1000 Arrows and Extreme Speed, but with Reflect building our own bulk, and the recovery from Drain Punch, Giga Drain, and Leftovers, to say we're dealing with them is being generous. The super effective Dual Chops help speed things along, bringing us to Phase 2 in no time. The 50% form is already way tougher to deal with. One thing I couldn't plan around while keeping Seamus out there is Dragon Pulse. No light screen means we just have to tank it, but it's not too bad. The other thing is that we're already doing so little damage that I realized I forgot to make all of these plus moves. Boosted Drain Punch and Dual Chop would have saved so much time and pressure, but that quickly becomes the least of my worries. During this phase, Zygarde also gains access to Land's Wrath. This attack not only magnets onto me, but does more damage than anything I've seen before. Especially to me! I try to pivot to Samoa Joe as a means of negating my Bone Pokemon's damage, but with my lack of movement and Samoa Joe just teleporting to me, it did way more harm than good. After switching back to Seamus, I figure that if I want to heal up Joe with Drain Punch and Shell Bell, now's my chance. Otherwise, the opportunity will just get harder and harder to find later on. But this legendary sees a kill, and locks in Dragon Pulse that just keeps going. But so does Joe. Dual Chop is used before I can switch, and the Shell Bell barely keeps her alive. Alright, back to Seamus. My main Mon here continues to whittle away at Zygarde's health, with an unstoppable amount of regeneration keeping her healthy. But I've got this Mega Energy, and honestly, I'm dying to use it. And between Drain Punch, Ice Punch, and Play Rough, Tiffy really starts giving Zygarde the works. Down to a quarter, Lance Wrath is unleashed again, and in my fumbling to keep Tiffany alive, I just about failed to keep me alive. It went without saying before, because it never got this close, but if I die, the run does not end. But that doesn't mean there aren't any consequences. Instead, one of the 6 Pokemon on my team randomly sacrifices themselves to keep me alive. And oh man, I cannot afford to lose any of these guys. Once Tiffy's Mega Form runs out, I return to Seamus to keep her doing what she's been doing best. As Zygarde enters the red, Land's Wrath is used once again, and this time I tell Seamus to focus down mid so she doesn't get clipped. But I get sent to the red! The last hit just barely misses me, while Seamus finishes the job, and we enter the infamous Phase 3. Now, Zygarde's entire toolkit is available, and beefed up way more than before. Even with Seamus' great stats and move pool, if she wasn't resistant to ground types, I don't think she'd be able to pull through as much as she does. But then the 100% powered Zygarde realizes this too, and charges up Core Enforcer. Yeah, that one. This is one of the 2 attacks that have very tiny dodge windows, but this one isn't as bad if you know where to look. The attack makes a Z shape, so wherever Zygarde goes, as long as I go as far left or right as possible, it should miss. Just gotta get Seamus to hug the wall. Seamus, get over here! Phew. Thousand Waves is another move that can mess me up. It doesn't do as much damage, but it locks whoever's hit to be unable to switch for a while. For now, this isn't an issue, as Seamus is a monster, but if it happens to one of my Mons who are only fighting types when they Mega Evolve, and their Mega runs out, then they'll just have to sit there and wait until they can switch again. And then it begins. The final form's Land's Wrath has been buffed to hit the entire arena from outside in. Twice. At first, the center is the safe spot, but getting out unscathed is the hard part, and Seamus can't switch with iframes. The land makes its way towards us, and... I mean, I knew she resisted it, but I really thought it would do more. Well, once the option becomes available, I unleash the Undertaker with their nasty Drain Punch, Ice Beam combo. Our damage output is higher than it's ever been, and my legend is really living up to the title. Another Core Enforcer is more easily dodged this time, and while Seamus gets trapped in trying to recharge the Mega, it really isn't a bad thing. The Undertaker eventually goes back in to rack up more damage until Seamus tags back in, where she gets trapped again. We have to wait a little while longer before the Demon of Death Valley returns, but after another Core Enforcer gets dodged, an opening is created, and we take it. Boom! Ice Punch, boom! Drain Punch, and boom! Ice Beam finishes off the Zygarde 100%, winning us one of the hardest rogue boss fights in the entire game, Deathless. I was fully prepared for that to go so much worse, especially after Samoa Joe almost died. We made it, albeit with a little DLC help, but the entire base game of Lumiose is complete. Lysander confides in me that not only have I proven myself beyond any doubt to be the strongest in Lumiose at this moment, but I also inspired him to continue fighting for a more beautiful world. He's definitely doing it in a different way than before, which is great, because 3,000 years of before doesn't sound great. Well, back to a normal life of just chilling and battling. I wonder what that'll be like with any major cataclysms now. Oh wait. Now, I'm gonna warn you. The whole level cap ordeal is really weird in the DLC, and I'll get into my proposal on how to handle it later, because for now, I'm just gonna set it to the Mega Evolution successor, Corinna. She's also really cool and uses fighting types just like me, and her Pokemon are at level 85, so that'll be our cap for the moment. And while I'm as ready as ever to fight her, our introduction to her has to wait. Instead, I'm tasked with checking out these hyperspace holes and studying them, which is fine because I was gonna use them to get new encounters anyways. These things are really weird, and are another modern mechanic that doesn't really fit into the Nuzlocke rule set. For example, I was under the impression that there were 10-ish different maps that Hyperspace Lumiose used. That could still technically be true, and according to Series B, there are up to 10, and you can tell which one is which based on the available Pokemon listing. Or so I thought. Right away we find one with Crabrawler, and this one should be from Hyperspace Wild Zone 5. I get this tiny little map that sucks and I hate it, it's so buggy, where we catch Otis, and aww, she's so small. According to her summary, the Hyperspace Lumiose is just all one place. So if I want more than one encounter in the entire DLC, I thought basing it off of the different maps would be smart. But when I went to encounter Clavopus by Wild Zone 3, it was the same map. It only occurred to me afterwards that the Wild Zones referenced on Series B likely refers to whichever Wild Zone the distortion is near in the overworld. If I'm being 100% honest, that sounds more annoying to keep track of than anything else. Alternatively, I could limit my encounters to 1 for each difficulty rating, but I think I'm just gonna catch the fighting types. Welcome in, Kurt Angel. After entering this tiny, horrible, disgusting hyperspace hole for hopefully the last time, we pick up John Moxley and get out of there as soon as possible. These hyperspace holes provide me with plenty of EXP candy, more than I've ever really had before, and that's used to help catch up the new teammates. But only kinda, because they were all caught at like level 2. Awesome. With that, it's finally time for Karina's time to shine. And look, I know Mewtwo might be a really strong pick for this run, but with how difficult this game gets, especially beyond Zygarde as a whole, I'm not gonna turn my nose up to a good Pokemon. Sure, the Undertaker has an insanely great matchup into Karina's team, but just think about how hard this battle is emotionally. For me, getting reminded about Brock Lesnar and Rey Mysterio and... You just had to bring it up, didn't you? From here on, Karina's main job here is to assist Tawny and I with quelling new rogue Mega Evolutions. In a way, that's what all my other new encounters are for too, because regular Pokemon battles just aren't relevant anymore in the DLC. You see, every mandatory trainer battle in regular Lumiose circles around level 70, like the first double battle did. They don't really get any harder at all. It's hyperspace where the real challenge lies. With that being the case, it only makes sense that level caps are now determined by the next rogue boss. Yep, 105. This cap applies both inside and outside hyperspace. Yes, this means my team can get up to level 100 on their own, but in hyperspace, I cannot eat a donut that'll send the team past that level cap. I'm not really sure if there's a better way to handle level caps here, but I'm pretty happy with the solution for now. The only issue being the grind to catch us up to that cap, because even with the consistent influx of EXP Candy XLs, it's still a grind. But hey, I've been doing that this whole game, so what's new? With Otis, Kurt Angel, and John Moxley finally up to par with the rest of the OG team, we head on to the Hyperspace Hole to challenge the first rogue fight in the Mega Dimension, Mega Absol Z. We won't be able to utilize the same core strategy as we did with Zygarde and Drain Punch, but overall it's still pretty easy thanks to it just being a souped up version of the tutorial fight. Otis proves to have a great debut, and looks like the only rogue on the field despite being smaller than the average Abominable Crab. Strong attacks such as Ice Punch and Ice Hammer keep my Coconut comrade plentifully healthy with the Shell Bell to help, even among the Absol's charged attacks. At some point though, the Shell Bell does get knocked off, so instead of risking anything, I make sure to check my watch and... Oh! Well, it's Tiffy time again! Tiffany joins the fight as my only Mon with a super effective move in Play Rough. And I knew Absol was frail, but oh man! It's Tiffy time, but this rogue's on borrowed time. Before long, my first hyperspace rogue is defeated, and as a reward, we obtain... butter! Just loose butter in my hands. Upon returning to Hotel Z, I handed Ansha the room temperature hand butter. To be fair, I've never made a donut, so maybe this is how they actually get their flavor. A bunch of wacky hijinks ensue, and Naveen and I end up in a double battle against Laban and Gwyn. I don't dislike the idea, but these really feel like forced padding. Game Freak shoehorned this in as a main quest, and they're still only at level 74. I guess it's their way of not punishing you if you don't level up in the DLC. I mean, technically you only need good donuts to do well, but still. The battle is easy, and the two disgruntled ladies lose it in mere moments. In preparation for the next hyperspace rogue, the level cap has been increased to level 120, and I'm only left with one new fighter to acquire. It's not a bad one, and while Shinsuke Nakamura shares the same typing as Bronson Reed, he's certainly got a very different playstyle. And listen, I could get Otis or Megastone if I felt so brave, but yeah, right. This Carbominable quest is a 4-star difficulty at least. Our second hyperspace rogue battle, but first one with a challenge, is Staraptor. And oh my goodness, they really did it. Luxray fans in shambles, but Staraptor finally got the fighting type. This is going to be a classic cage match, and besides not being rogues, my team is put at an additional disadvantage by being weak to Staraptor's primary flying type. This won't be easy, but Shinsuke Nakamura is eager to show us what he could do. He uses Feather Dance right away to weaken the rogue, and hopes to supplement that bulk with Drain Punch and Leftovers healing. It'll have to work because in addition to strong moves like Focus Blast and Double Edge, this roadblock also has Dual Wing Beat, probably one of the best flying moves around. Shinsuke can't take many of those, and I quickly learned that his limit is 2 Dual Wing Beats. So, 4? If it weren't for the Feather Dance, Nakamura would have left our team faster than he entered. So regrettably, it's time for him to switch spots with John Moxley. This Great Ape is prepped with a perfect hit for damage and recovery, including the insane Rage Fist, a signature move that gets stronger every time Moxley gets hit. And I think that includes moves like Double Edge in rogue fights like this, since they do like 1% damage. At first it doesn't look like much, but because Dual Wing Beat is the only thing that can hurt Moxley, whenever it is used, she has plenty of time to heal it back with its Shell Bell. Occasionally Staraptor sees me as the easiest target, but close combat is surprisingly easy to dodge. We enter phase 2, and honestly, nothing really changes. We keep up our cycle, going at a faster pace now, but with Rage Fist building so much power, it puts Drain Punch to shame. Check this out. Plus Rage Fist and... boom! That's some damage! Staraptor starts panicking and manages to kite John's attacks and get her to hit me, but luckily it mostly does psychological damage. We catch back up and get the finishing blow. All of these DLC rogues are required to be caught after their defeat, and this little guy is more than welcome on the team. I think I'll name him Dirty Dom. Oh, he looks just like his dad! Things have been moving at a breakneck pace, so in spite of not really doing anything about the ever-growing portal above the city, the newest team members of Team MZ decide to take a little break and explore Lumios while they still can. If you want to make friends, you gotta learn how to say yes to things like this, so I head on out with them. And, you know, it was nice, even if we're in France. I did forget to hit record, and the autosave screwed me over, but never mind that. While I may still not be over the 5 whole deaths I've experienced in this last week and a half, I'm at least surrounded by people just like me. At least they have goals. Goals like finding Legendary at 9 years old and aiming to be the best Mega Evolution user are nothing to scoff at. I find that I work better when surrounded by others who work hard, so this company is increasingly welcome. I don't have the ZA Royale's progression to gauge my strength, but the otherworldly turmoil is a good substitute for now. And hey, I wouldn't mind keeping my Pokemon alive for the rest of the run either. Technically, if I just keep hanging out like this, then no one else can die. Sadly, that isn't really an option right now, and double sadly, there aren't any more Pokemon to encounter as of yet, as these hyper wormholes remain to only have 2 stars. It isn't until the 3rd star where we could get some more, so there's only a little bit of grinding in our way before the next rogue, Mega Tatsugiri. Before I get into it though, I just want to talk about how much I love this arena. With the amount of detail, I'd believe you if you said that this was meant to be a rogue boss map from the start. I'm really surprised we didn't get more of this in the base game. Like, what if we just barely missed a Mon-going rogue and we had to fight it in like the blue sector or something? I'm sure there are several places where that could happen. Maybe it never happened so that they could have parity with the Switch 1 version, which probably couldn't handle something like that. At least without some Scarlet and Violet level performance. Anyways, this Tatsugiri fight isn't anything crazy. Their Dragon Rush and Ice Beam are pretty easy to dodge, leaving Kurt Angel completely safe to rack up damage. I really wanted Octolock to work on them and lower the Entree's defenses, but I guess bosses are immune to the elongated stat drops? Or maybe it's just Octolock, I don't know. Their Baby Bomb is also weaker and easier to dodge than I remember. So after a little more damage, I bring out Dirty Dom, who learns Outrage apparently? The only problem is landing the hit, because Tatsugiri becomes way more elusive as the battle goes on, frustratingly so. But it's so frail that the few hits we do land are more than enough on their own. We get out of there, but this is the last easy rogue. Technically now, there are 3 more encounters I can hire, but I've spent way too much time getting them to spawn. I'm looking for 3-star fighting type wormholes, go figure, but none seem to spawn. I guess there's just too much competition between the other types, other star difficulties, the side quests, and the battle zone portals. I could clear out the quests at least, but yeah, right. Those double battles and mega battles are too scary for now. But the battle zones are honestly a pretty good place for point grinding, and they occasionally give good items. Specifically, the more difficult trainers in there, oftentimes, give bottle caps, which are used for maxing out the Pokemon's IVs. The Seeds of Mastery are nice for TM moves like Drain Punch, but beyond that, it's really easy to stay safe in battle zones because I could just enter portals with types weak to fighting. And these battle caps are going to help out a lot, because the next rogue is no joke. Mega Meowstic. A strong psychic type with plenty of coverage, and a charge attack that'll almost guarantee a death if you're underprepared. Obviously, I'm going to lead with Samoa Joe, who's immune to their main move, Psybeam. However, I'm quickly reminded that this thing also gets Moonblast now, so I lose a little confidence. As soon as the Mega Ring is charged up, I get Big Bwa out there to Mega Evolve. This is a preemptive move, as he won't officially join the fight until later. John Moxley instead takes stage, and makes use of the Shell Bell just like Joe did, thanks to a post-game shop offering infinite copies. Her presence doesn't last for long though, because after only getting a preview of the works, Meowstic pushes us all back to set Trick Room. This move is made to always face the player, leaving the weak spot on the back. If I don't break it in time, the whole field would get nuked by Psychic Energy and get a guaranteed kill. I needed Bois already Mega Evolved so that I wouldn't waste any time and hit the weak point as quickly as possible. But if you're too quick, your Pokemon's pathfinding could get them stuck while turning the corner. Bois doesn't have that problem as he just teleports, and to my surprise, a single use of Pin Missile obliterates the wall. We have plenty of time to do even crazier damage on the inside and bring the rogue to phase 2. I was gonna switch Bois out after this to save the Mega Charge, but that's when Meowstic sets the Trick Room again. We have way less charge than before, and the weak spot is gonna be more durable this time. As you can see, one round of Pin Missile isn't enough to break the barrier, and I lose focus on where to aim for a second once the move ends. But Bois locks in and shatters the wall with Lunge, leaving this terrifying boss wide open. All of our moves continue to do amazing damage, and when the Mega runs out, Samoa Joe returns to finish what he started. Meowstic frantically uses the quad effective Moonblast, but Joe takes it like a champ! One last brutal swing, and the fight is over. I was actually dreading that fight when I began the DLC. I think the only reason that went so well was because we were able to end it quickly. If we didn't have the power of Big Bois, a drawn-out fight would have for sure ruined us. With the hyperspace holes becoming more prevalent, and honestly very dangerous for everyday living, the final batch of fighters are finally available to be caught. Jey Uso and Jimmy Uso are both added back-to-back from different hyperspace zones, though with them being two more mono fighting types, I'm left wondering how they'll mix things up. After that, we signed on Drew McIntyre, and now we have two birds on the team at once. Not sure why he's carrying that big thing around. I figured it'd slow him down, but it's fine. He can do him or whatever. And last but most, the encounter we've all been waiting for. Actually, 4-star zones aren't available yet, so we gotta keep waiting. I bet you'll never guess who the last available fighting type is. As I got closer and closer to starting this fight, I realized the Mega Heatran is a hurdle that's even higher than Meowstic. We had some leeway before, being given time to think, but once Heatran ramps itself up, it's a non-stop onslaught of attacks until the very end. If you ever doubted Heatran's legendary status, this fight will convince you otherwise. The Uso brothers are my openers here. Jimmy has the brawn to hit this incarnation in a bunch of different yet slightly similar ways. We make perfect use of the slower start of the match to rack up a bunch of damage. Flash cannons and magma storms are launched along the way, but on their own they're easy enough to dodge. Jimmy Uso can even use his plus boosted dynamic punch. Rogue bosses may be immune to statuses like confusion, but they aren't immune to right hooks. Shortly before phase 2 activates, Heatran charges the move I'm dreading the most. For what feels like forever, they fire off magma straight from the source while other magma storms are still up. My hardcore Nuzlocke rules say that I have to keep him on in the entire time, and if Jimmy Uso follows me from start to finish, he'll take way more damage than he can handle. Partway through, I call out an attack to get him away from the magma, but this just gets me caught up on the attack myself. From there, the magma keeps up pace with me, and I barely escape, making it out while being one hit away from death. While he took minimal damage, Jimmy Uso still got burned in the process, so after our attack was cut in half, I let Jey Uso take the reins. With the Assault Vest, he should survive a little longer, however, he has no recovery. He can still get all the other punch moves, but for some reason, Drain Punch isn't one of them. In phase 2, Heatran's Magma Storm whips up volcanic rocks, and they're all ticking time bombs. I could break them, but I'm better off running because of how ruthless the Magma Blast is. Given Jey's Assault Vest, I feel more secure in focusing on myself and book it. Both Jey and I still get clipped plenty of times along the way, but we end up in a much better position than last time, even among all the explosions. But he's burned, so it's time to switch again. Now, Shinsuke Nakamura, on the other hand, cannot get burned. On top of that, he 4 times resists all of the attacks coming our way. He can't Mega Evolve, but he can still do plenty of work even without any plus moves. The Magma Blast is fired off again, and just like Jey before him, I leave Shinsuke to fend for himself. However, he appears to get caught in a few more explosions along the way, and in order to keep him alive, I need to pause and switch him out. I cut it real close, but Jon Moxley tags in just in time. A moment later, and Nakamura would have been gone. Moxley proceeds to accumulate damage on the rogue boss, and with the help of everyone before him, this legendary gets conquered. Man, what a nightmare. I thought about doing a steel run instead of a fighting type run at first. I don't think I could have made it out with steel types. See ya, Heatran! Heatmore should have got a Mega instead. As we get closer to stopping the ever-growing hyperspace hole above Lumiose, I get an increasing amount of ominous and vivid nightmares of some being telling me to stay away. And now it's telling me that it hurts, and asks for me to help. Brother, I'll help, but if you kill my Pokemon, I'm gonna be so upset with you. And my nightmares aren't the only thing that's getting worse. The Rust Syndicate headquarters gets temporarily taken over by hyperspace. Fortunately, the situation kinda solves itself, more or less, but we're clearly running out of time. And even with a level cap all the way at 200, we're gonna need one last boost to firepower. And that boost is one that only Flamigo can provide. I bet you could imagine why Flamigo was the final fighting type in this game. Bianca Belair here has pure, unadulterated strength, unmatched by any that come before this beast. But that's not all. In our last bit of grinding here, I finally take on the 2 Mega Crabominable. I need the power that comes from the Mega Stone, and I think I'm ready now. To my surprise, Shinsuke comes out in place of Bronson Reed. He isn't as bulky, but I'll let him put on a show. And that he does, because at level 200, we just barely live 2 Earthquakes. In return, the King of Strong Style just about takes out both Megas in 2 hits, but I'm smart enough not to risk it. Bronson Reed takes the field, and he too almost perishes, but finishes them off before long. Mega Crabominable, we got the stone. And my Pokemon aren't the only ones prepared to reach their final forms. By participating in a double battle in hyperspace, and by sweeping Ivor and Gwyn with Drew McIntyre, I've unlocked Ivor's Gi. I'm in this fight just as much as my Pokemon, and I can't let them down. After even more grinding, just about everyone has reached level 100. It wasn't easy, and I have way more hours in this run than I ever planned on. We actually have a huge advantage in the next fight type-wise, surprisingly. But with the source of all these mega dimensions being a hyper-offensive nightmare with 2 phases, I'm not counting my chickens just yet. Especially because we need a particular donut to initiate the fight. This donut needs to reach very specific flavor ratings, and with how strict the guidelines are, I can't make one that lets us reach the level cap, nor one with any meaningful boosts. And that's not to mention the donut only has 4 stars. I'm not even sure if the portal will stay open long enough. Everyone's ready to do their part, as this fight isn't one we can do alone. And oh my goodness, one gust of wind would end the run right now. But the special donut is made just in time, and Hoopa sets their ring, allowing us to walk through to the other side. Tawny, Corina, and I are welcomed with a scene reminiscent of New Moon Island from Sinnoh, but this version is way more imposing. As we make our way up the path, we just about reach the arena before meeting someone who's been long gone. AZ meets with us to finally say goodbye. Tawny suggests he's just a dream, but he replies saying, sure, but life is a dream. And no matter what happens beyond this point, tomorrow will be a better day. We part ways for the last time, and approach Darkrai. At first I was confused. The nightmares they gave us always began with, stay away, only to end with a cry for help. And now that we're here, Darkrai is doubling down on its warning. It's in pain, but the energy from Onslaught has continued to enrage it. The nightmares weren't threats, they were warnings. But who would I be if I didn't do my best to end this? Darkrai is getting quelled, and it all starts with Bianca Belair. Our rotation of attacks provides us enough mobility to somewhat keep up with Darkrai. They are a mythical, however, so we aren't 100% accurate, but with the help of a couple plus moves, Bianca can stagnate them and wreak havoc. This promptly gets Darkrai to use Dark Void, which got buffed in this game. This attack lands in practically every corner of the arena, and does damage on top of setting the Drowsy effect. Being a rogue boss, Darkrai also has their ability and subjects us to bad dreams, so if I don't get Bianca out of there, the tick damage would never end. I make the decision to send out Otis, albeit a little earlier than I planned, but with the damage she does, it's no problem. Darkrai is immediately put in a daze, while Otis continues to unleash her entire arsenal. Given our own otherworldly attacks, Phase 1 ends in mere moments. Instead of giving in though, Darkrai is forced to Mega Evolve, and turns into an Eldritch Horror straight out of a Kirby game. Which is a compliment, by the way. This thing now has a stat spread built almost perfectly for Legend ZA, prioritizing special attack and bulk all the way. But you might find the bulk part hard to believe given the continuation of Otis's rampage. That isn't just an abominable crab, that's a killer. Darkrai is forced to use their ultimate ability, and double team to fire off 2 different iterations of Dark Pulse. If you aren't on top of this, you will take non-stop damage. But Otis keeps up the pressure and takes out 2 of the copies before they get the attack going. Samoa Joe then withstands the remainder of the attack and recharges the Mega Meter for Otis to return on whatever that is. Future Sight? Sure, it's big damage, but Drain Punch heals it all back and proceeds to transform this dark matter into a punching bag. A last-minute getaway is attempted, but it's no use. Otis finishes the job, and the day is saved. I genuinely did not think Otis would have been that good here. I have picked up the Megastone for fun, but I don't think anyone else could have done that kind of damage. No more major cataclysms remain, but our fight isn't quite over. Ansha still wants to find her own legendary, and we're gonna help her. She's like a little sister, how could I say no? With this new quest underway, we've got way more research points to grind than ever before, but this time it might be a blessing. It gives me time to meditate on our strats for the upcoming Origin Form legendary fights against Kyogre and Groudon. Admittedly, I'm not too worried about Kyogre, but Groudon? I am nothing but worried about Groudon. But we'll get to that later. Yes, over an hour into the video, we'll get to it later. At this point in time, the research meter is pretty big, so I need to change some things up. Wild Zones provide plenty of floating Pokeballs to break, giving me plenty of berries to repeat the loop, but very few points. Battle Zones give me plenty of points and have floating Pokeballs as well, but with trainers around every corner, finding most of or even some of the item drops is way too much of an ask. And you can forget about the golden Pokeball at the end most of the time. On the other hand, these rematches against Rogue Megas are more than welcome. Each one gives me 10,000 points and they're fun. A win-win. From this point on, I just keep resetting for the rogue rematches. I can't reset my opponent, but I can reset to get them to spawn in because they're so much quicker and fun. I've heard that people don't really care for the rogue fights, but really these are the parts of the game that I've enjoyed the most. Does that make me a sicko? Upon completion of my research, I returned to Hotel Z to make 2 legendary donuts. I was worried I wouldn't have enough ingredients after prioritizing the rogues, which only have 1 floating Pokeball at the end, but we actually managed pretty easily. Speaking of easy, this rogue fight against Kyogre is the one that I'm least concerned with out of all of the DLC. Truth is, I've been holding back Seamus's usage to be certain I'd have her for this fight. Between Drain Punch and Giga Drain, this starter becomes impossible for Kyogre to kill. But they did kill it with this arena, oh my goodness! It is Jay Uso who I lead with, as he could charge up the Mega Ring while doing big damage with Thunder Punch and Seed Bomb. Why does he get Seed Bomb? Even with the held item that I guess I'm addicted to, Jay takes a little more damage than I was hoping. But as soon as his job is done, it becomes the Seamus show. Her moves have almost perfect synergy, with Trailblaze boosting their recharge speed, letting Seed Bomb and Drain Punch hit way more frequently. For some reason, our alpha antagonist here only really goes for Surf while they could be going for Ice Beam. But nevertheless, Seamus heals back way more health than she really has any right to. And her might makes it look like we're putting Kyogre's health bar into the shredder. We'd be getting met with thunders? But yeah, that doesn't do any damage. Phase 1 ends, and we bear witness to the primal form. Definitely not a Mega Evolution, everybody. Seamus keeps the pressure up, and it honestly plays out as if we're still fighting Phase 1. Sadly, our Mega runs out while we're most of the way there, just in time for the Rogue Boss to use Origin Pulse. Don't get me wrong, I like Kyogre, but this move is not hitting anyone. Dang it! Well, by the time it did hit, Seamus was just about ready to Mega Evolve again anyways. 1 Drain Punch and Giga Drain later, and we're practically back at full. We knock out the Ocean Titan before long, and catch it to end his rampage. Wait, I think this one was minding its own business. So, one of the reasons why Groudon is more of a problem is its bulk. My fighting types primarily hit it on the physical side, which Groudon thrives against. Kyogre is built to take more special attacks, so I think I still would have been fine even without Seamus. And while Groudon is weak to grass, this one comes with Fire Blast and Heat Wave, and I don't think Seamus would have as good of a time here. As always, Bianca is a phenomenal opener. If he got a Mega Form, then he'd be the main event for sure, but for now, we can make great use of Triple Axle and Waterfall. Groudon mainly stays towards the center, so I can easily kite away attacks from Bianca, who does not let up on the hits. I had originally planned on tagging him out at some point, pre-Primal, but things seemed to go really smoothly, with our calories being maintained thanks to the black orbs we hit out of Groudon. By the end of it, Bianca took out base Groudon all on his own. Unless you want to count Tawny and Karina. When these Pokemon revert to their primal forms, their abilities are activated, even in ZA. Kyogre's Primordial Sea cancels out Fire-type attacks. Oh no. But Groudon's Desolate Land cancels out Water-type attacks. The best answer to his new Ground Fire type. Bianca's Waterfalls are unusable now, so Drew McIntyre starts his fight. The Held Leak boosts his crit chances, and our Donut gives us a boost to Grass-type attacks. They're only neutral now, but Leaf Blade and Solar Blade are still pretty consistent and safe. But unfortunately, the damage we're doing in Phase 2 isn't quite matching the calorie depletion. I really don't know what to do with the rules if we get timed out, so I'd rather not deal with it. Instead, I send out John Moxley. The plan is to build Rage Fist over and over again by getting chipped, and just steamroll it from there. But even then, without a Mega Evolution, it's not looking great. On the bright side, this version of Precipice Blade is more lava-oriented and shaped like the Omega symbol. Most of the time, by going left or right, you can find the safe spot and attack from there. We return to the regular loop, and for a second, I consider pivoting to the Undertaker who can Mega Evolve. But they're equipped with support moves like Recover and Light Screen, so our pressure won't be as consistent. Plus moves need to be prioritized, because with the right amount of damage, we can continue hitting the Black Orbs out of the Primal and freeze the time limit. We continue racking up damage, but it's almost as if the Rage Fists aren't properly boosting for some reason. Either that or Groudon is just that bulky. Moxley keeps it going, doing her very best to keep the run alive. She keeps getting hit by fire attacks along the way, and somehow avoids getting burned throughout. With that little bit of luck and consistent pressure, Moxley manages one final plus boosted Rage Fist that finishes off the Groudon. I catch them with the perfect Pokeball, and we head back to the Rust Syndicate. We're just about ready. With both Kyogre and Groudon caught and studied, all of the preparations have been made to fulfill Launch's dream and catch Rayquaza. Said dream can become literal thanks to the residual energy of Darkrai, and the hyperspace holes open up right above Hotel Z. Wait, isn't this just as dangerous? There's just one tiny small litty bitty task left. Get 100,000 research points. Even considering our lesser berry gainage from the Rogue Mega rematches, after an hour of taking down 10 of them, we head to Hotel Z and make a Rayquaza donut with plenty of berries to spare. I'm bringing a carefully crafted group of fighters to take on this Guardian of the Sky, not only because I'm set on completing this request for a certain surrogate sister, but also because it's for me. The dream of putting it all on the line to reach the top of the ZA Royale was short-sighted. It was completed a long time ago now. But the drive to fight, the process of doing so, and spending time with those I've met along my journey have become the real fire that's been lit under me. There's always a fight to have, and I don't know what awaits the team and I after this, but regardless, we're here to fight. At the top of Hotel Z, Karina and Tawny are ready to take on the final boss. It's actually kind of weird because thinking back, we always get ready without Tawny, and she has to play catch-up. So much so that I didn't even see her appear in time for the last few bouts. This must be serious. I've fought other flying types before, but Rayquaza is the king of them all. The aggression in particular is going to be really tough to deal with. Before the fights even started, the deity descends from the sky the same way it did to end the original fight between Groudon and Kyogre. Rayquaza recognizes us to be just as much of a threat. I'm starting this fight with the one who started it all, Bronson Reed. We may not have any 4 times effective ice attacks to use, but our rollouts and dual chops managed to get the first job done, while only getting clipped by a few hyper voices here and there. Could've gone better, but not bad. As soon as Reed gets the Mega Ring charged, I unleash Otis and Mega Evolve immediately. It may be in my best interest to preserve her, but in Phase 2, in a similar manner to Groudon, Rayquaza gets rid of all of their weaknesses relating to flying. Ice will still be good, but this is the only time it's extra good. We also got a nice little ice power-up from the donut. Our Gorilla Crab just about takes out Rayquaza then and there. But right before we can get the last hit, Twisters are set to mess with our footing as Draco Meteors rain down from the sky. Otis doesn't have reliable healing, so I switched to Bronson, but heavily underestimated the scale of this attack. A single meteor almost takes him out, and Real Louie tags in just in time for the save. As a Steel type, he resists the meteors and barely withstands several direct impacts. And I'm right there with him! I've gotten hit so much that one free-flying branch will take me out, and an extent, one of my Pokémon. Fortunately, the meteor showers run out of juice, and Otis dodges multiple meteor beams upon returnal to knock Rayquaza into next week. But oh, does time fly. With the Mega Form still active, Otis continues to unleash Ice Punch after Ice Hammer over and over, with a Drain Punch here and there for some recovery, though it isn't much. The amount of damage Otis otherwise manages to maintain is immaculate, though she somehow gets clipped by Outrage along the way. Twice. However, this isn't the fight where we can begin pivoting. 2 Mons can't afford to switch in, and 2 others are only allowed to fight if they Mega Evolve. But someone's already Mega Evolved right now. We have to keep on fighting. And then we see it. Rayquaza's ultimate move beginning with an inescapable tornado. Dragon Ascent. Otis frantically attacks the upstream with everything she's got, but no one else is helping her. Pretty soon we lose the opportunity to focus it down, and I begin to panic, as the attack doesn't look like it's been weakened enough. But the Mega is still active, but maybe it'll end as the attack hits, making her invulnerable? What happens after the ZA Royale? There is no real goal left for me to aspire to. Technically, if I just keep hanging out like this, then no one else can die. Am I just gonna become a husk of my former self? But I'll never forgive myself if I don't fight. John Moxley enters the fight with a vengeance. Rage Fist may not be powered up, but that just gives her the opportunity to land more hits. Ice Punch, Dual Chop, Outrage, Rayquaza takes them all. Before long, the superpowered Mega Legendary heads to the center of the arena to charge up a Dragon Ascent again, and that move will surely claim another life at this point. But Dirty Dom comes through. He blitzes towards the center of the field and immediately uses Aerial Ace, defeating Mega Rayquaza, defeating the DLC, and defeating the entire game. I really don't know if it was possible to do that without any deaths, but Otis put up a heck of a fight, and I don't think she would have had it any other way. We survived, and made it back to Hotel Z to tell Ansha and the others all about our battle, about how we fought to the very end. There's still more to Pokemon Legends ZA, with the other legendary fighting types, legendary quests, a mythical rogue boss, and even a couple hidden super bosses. This game has a lot, and while it'd be great to do them, I think Rayquaza was the perfect place to end it. And it kinda goes along with the idea that there's always more to do, even after achieving your goals. It'd be a little weird to end the run with literally nothing left to do, you know? And at 65 hours, I think I've gotten my fill. If you're still watching at the very end, I can't thank you enough. This challenge run somehow ended up being even more time consuming than I anticipated, and I've put a lot of heart into it, if it wasn't obvious. This isn't my job right now by any means, but if you liked the video today, then you could maybe help me go down that path by liking and subscribing if you haven't already. Also, I tried to give every Pokemon some time to shine. Did I give your favorite the time they deserved, or were some of them underutilized? Let me know in the comments. Other than that, that's all I've got for you today. Thank you all again so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time, and have a good one.